It's officially banlist season, meaning everyone has their hot takes ready to go. And I'll be honest, I am all here for it. So much so that I'm actually getting in on the hype this time, and I'm going to give you a definitive banlist for the May 2023 format. Let's jump into it. What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and welcome to another amazing Yu-Gi-Oh video. Like I said in the intro, it is banlist season, and I am so excited for some changes to today's format. That being said, today I'm going to be covering about 35 cards for you and letting you know what I think about them. Should they be banned, limited, at 3, or semi-limited? I said that in a really weird and reverse way, but we're gonna roll with it because one take is all we need. Anyways, I am super excited for this. Like I said, there's gonna be so many changes I'm really hoping for, and there's gonna be a lot of cards that could potentially come off the list and a lot of cards that really should be on the list. That being said, if you're excited, then make sure to smash the like button for a new ban list, and if you're enjoying the content, then make sure to subscribe to the channel for more. That being said, let's go ahead and jump on into it. And by the way, if you want to do a tier list like this, it is linked down in the description, so make sure to click on that, as well as on my Twitter as well, and make sure to add me with your screenshot of your finished list for these cards. I would love to see them. Now, let's go ahead and start talking about our first card, being Ancient Fairy Dragon. This card can come to 3. It is eroded to hell. It really is it's still a strong card, but not like abusable, I think, as much at least. I definitely believe that 3 copies, it's a really strong option, but not going to be seeing a lot of play because it takes up a lot of space in an extra deck for loops that may not be very valuable or very good. So I think 3 copies is really strong. Next up is going to be Blaster, Dragon Ruler of Infernos. I think this card can come back to 1 because it is the weakest of all the Dragon Rulers remaining on the list. Definitely Tidal sending cards to the graveyard is really strong. Redox reviving cards is insane as well. But I feel like this card and Tempest really are just a cut below the rest, especially now because, let's be honest, Destruction isn't really the strongest thing to do anymore. You'd rather just kind of build a big board with the other Dragon Rulers, or you rather maybe bounce a card, for example, or shuffle it back into the deck, or banish it specifically. The fact that Blaster doesn't do that is a bit of a problem for its removal, so keep that in mind. And not every deck cares about being destroyed. Think of cards or decks like Unchained, which want to be destroyed, or even then, a deck like Kashtira. Do you really think Kashtira Shangri-Ira cares about being destroyed? Not at all. This card can come back to 1 for sure. Next up is going to be Branded Expulsion. This is definitely a card that can come back to 3. Or no, that is the opposite that I want to say. It is a card at 3 that can go to 0. That better go to 0. My God, this card needs to go. Absolutely. The fact that this card is in the format right now really warps Branded into a really stupid variant. I don't like it. I play it myself with Ra's Disciple because I can't afford the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, but regardless, the fact that this card is around, it really warps Branded into something stupid. The fact that Branded is now just forced to be, we're going to try and lock you out turn 1 and then just go for a game turn 2, I don't like that at all. I'd rather just out-resource my opponent, and I think it's really good, but I play competitively. I want to try and win, so I'm going to play a good card, but for that reason, I do think that it should be pretty much banned. It's just way too easy to do. Next up is going to be another branded card in Branded Fusion. This is the card that makes the deck work. Do I think this card should go to 1? No. It's at 1 in the OCG right now, and I think a branded deck just topped like a regional or something, or their equivalent of it, and that's really amazing. But I don't think that's the solution in the TCG. I think the solution in the TCG is to put it to 2 copies. The reason for that is because at 1, you're basically killing the deck if you can get it out of your graveyard, because there's nothing really that can be done if it's in the banish zone. Then you're kind of stuck. You have no way to really recur it back, which is a problem, obviously. For that reason, I think that going to 2 copies reduces the consistency of the deck, and it reduces the grind game ability that the deck has as well, which is a very big deal. Next up is going to be Cyberstein. This card, I'm going to be putting in the ban section. It's at 1 right now. But no, it should be banned. Why? Well, Super Heavy Samurai is a deck that can search this card pretty easily as part of its normal combo that gets up like infinite negates, and it pendulum summons it out while you're at 8,000 life points. So you pay your 5 and you get out Naturi Exterio or whatever you want, and yeah, that's not strong. Let me rephrase. That's very strong, and it's not good for the meta. It's not healthy at all. So for that reason, I think that Cyberstein should be banned. Everything else though can stick around in that deck for now. It's really new, but I feel like this just needs to go before it gets problematic. Get rid of Cyberstein before it is too late. Then we have another banned card that I believe, Diablosis the Mind Hacker. Remember this card? This card was so hyped up for Kashtira, and it performed really well at first, and then people stopped playing it, and then it kind of stopped popularity again because it is the way people do the zone lock more consistently to be able to get rid of, like, I think it's 9 out of the 10 zones, which is insane. I think this card is not healthy. Looking at your opponent's extra deck, I don't think is a good thing in the format, especially on a deck or in a deck rather, that is so generic and easy to get this card out, like Kashtira. It's not like a card, or not like a deck like the True King Lithos Adjun, which is very specific in terms of what you need in 2 Earth monsters. This is not the same thing at all, and the fact that it is probably better, or in a deck that's better than any dinosaur deck has ever been, is a really big deal as well. Next up is going to be Dimensional Barrier. Now, a lot of people have been talking about putting this card to 0 or even to 1. I think putting this card to 1 or to semi-limited is an absolute nightmare and the worst case scenario. You don't want to do that. I think this card definitely would either be going to banned or staying at 3 copies, and I'm personally in the camp that it should stay at 3 copies. Reason being is, I don't think it's a card that is game warpingly strong. It doesn't shut a game down completely for an entire, however long it's going to be, like a card like Skill Drain. It's 1 turn. It's 1 turn, and there are decks like Branded which are trying to play around, and they have ways to do that with being able to fusion summon on your opponent's turn, which is really strong. I do find that it's not always good in every single format. There are certain formats where it's very strong and others where it's just really lackluster, and for that reason I think it's a great side deck card, and I don't think it'll ever go to 0 copies for that reason. Next up is Pankratops. Dinosaur Pankratops is currently at 1. Listen, the fact that we have Fenrir is just a better Pankratops. Eventually Fenrir will get reprinted and it'll go to limited status or something like that, or banned, or whatever the case might be, but I think that Pankratops, we know it is not as good. We know Destruction is not as good. It is 1 for 1. The fact that it's a big body, the fact that it's a summon once per turn, it's all these things kind of are points against it, even though it's kind of what the, well, it's kind of why the card is so good. The free summon, the big body, all of that. It could be a 2 for 1 in certain instances if you have a really weak front line that your opponent has. I just think that this card should not be at 1 copy. It is a good card. It is not that good of a card, so I'm going to put it to 3. Next up is Zeus. Now, Zeus is currently at 3. In the OCG, it's at 1, and I kind of agree with that. I think the fact that playing multiple Zeuses in an extra deck is kind of annoying and a little gimmicky, I find. It's also kind of lazy. The fact that if you had decks like Zodiac, which really relied heavily on Trident and hand traps and whatever, but no, the reason why it was so good was because it can get to big Zeuses and then Zeus could just blow up the board over and over. I don't like that. I think it's a very lazy way to design cards. It's a really cool way to summon this card, but for that reason, and because it's been around for so long, I think it makes sense for it to go to 1 copy. Next up is going to be Dragonic Diagram. I would love to see this card come back to 3. I don't think it's going to happen. The fact that you have to destroy cards and then be able to search other cards as well can get you 2 forms of advantage, which is really nice. In general, it's a very powerful card. I don't think Konami would ever put it back to 2 or 3 copies, at least for not a couple of years, but eventually it will peel off the list because while it is a strong card, a really good card, it is not insanely game warping anymore. So for that reason, I'm happy keeping it at 1 for the time being. Gen X Ally Birdman. I'll be honest, I think it's going to stay at 1. Specifically because I think Konami is going to just ignore the fact that it exists or just forget about it. Yeah, I know there's no once per turn on the card, but it is still a solid card nonetheless, and it's just not seeing any play right now. Will it see play at 3 copies? Probably not. Is it going to be okay there? Probably. But I think for the time being, Konami will forget about it, and that's why they're going to keep it at the 1 copy, because it's just, you know, what they do. They're going to just forget this card until it's way past its prime, and then it's just never going to be used ever again. Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. Okay. Because we have Branded Expulsion banned, which I think is the right decision, I'm going to keep Gimmick Puppet Nightmare at 3 copies. Just the fact that you have one of these 2 gone is a really big deal, but in general, I don't think it makes much sense to have the Gimmick Puppet banned, because then you still have Expulsion around, and Expulsion can just bring back other cards instead, which is the same problem. We don't really want to deal with that in the slightest. Either way, like I was saying, I feel really confident about having Expulsion banned, so we're going to keep the Gimmick Puppet at the 3 copies. Glow Up Bulb, I believe it is banned right now. We're going to put it to the 1, and the reason why we're putting it to 1 is because it was kind of a sacrifice for Halqifibrax, and for that reason I feel like it just makes more sense to bring it back now rather than waiting however long it's going to be. The issue with it is it's a free card, a free link to rather. It's a free tuner access, it's an Earth, which is great for cards like Nat Beast and so on. It's just a solid card all around. Level 1 tuners are great, and the fact that it can be used multiple times is also really strong. It mills a card, which can be good in your deck as well. I find that in general, Glow Up Bulb, while it's a fantastic card, it should not be banned, but definitely 1 copy per deck at the most. We then have Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. I love Pendulum. It is currently banned. I think that it's time to bring Electromite back. Why though? Well, the fact that Pendulum is kind of nerfed right now because of the, well, change to Master Rule 4, but more importantly because Kashtira is in the format with zone locking. You zone lock 1 scale, and it's a tough time. You zone lock both of them, it's pretty much game over because you have to have like a Kaiju to out the Shangri era, and most Pendulum decks are running like a ton of monsters that are meant to be special summoned out, not the Kaijus. I think Electromite can come back. I think if it goes first, it can put up a ton of negates, but we're seeing a lot of people running cards like Ogre and Droll in their main board to deal with decks like Superheavy Samurai. So if you bring back this card here, it kind of is the same issue as the Superheavy Samurai deck because they lose to the same card. So I think it's okay to bring it back for that reason. Kashtira is the next, well, Kashtira cards are the next cards we're going to be talking about. I have 4 of them here. I have Kashtira, Arise Heart, Birth, Fenrir, and Unicorn. I think while Arise Heart is probably the reason why the deck is so good right now, I don't think it is the problem card of the deck at all. Yes, a lot of people are ending on the 3 material Arise Heart in 4 summons to avoid Nibiru, but also to be really good against cards like Lava Golem or Sphere Mode. It's a solid card overall. I think that it isn't a card that needs to go to 2 or to 1. It's a very, very good card, but it is not the reason why the deck is absolutely the most dominant deck in the room. It's the fact that it has so much consistency and big bodies, and the cards that get you to this card here are so strong on their own as well. So speaking of some of those cards, we have Kashtira Birth. I think the reason I have Birth here is because, or even on this list for consideration, is because I saw a lot of people talking about Birth, and I don't think Birth has any reason being limited, banned, anything like that. It is a good card. It aids you with your grind game a lot, but it is not the reason why this deck is crazy. In my opinion, the reason why this deck is crazy is because of Kashtira Unicorn and Kashtira Fenrir. This is how I would put them. I would put Unicorn to 1 because this card is your 1-card starter in a way. The fact that it gets you 2 Theosis to then be able to target the Unicorn and summon out the Fenrir from the deck, to be able to then search you for like a Rise Heart and be able to summon that card out and be able to get to your 3 material Arise Heart is the problem. Fenrir, you can do things in a really weird about way. I think it's a 2-card combo if I'm not mistaken, but it's still a really good card. The reason why I have Fenrir specifically put at 2 is because I don't like that Fenrir is being splashed into basically any deck that can play it. It's a great card, don't get me wrong. The fact that it banishes a card, the fact that it replaces itself immediately is huge. The fact that it's a big body, a free special summon, all these things is awesome. But it shouldn't be played in every single strategy. That's the reason why I have it 2 copies, not because it is the most insane card in the world and has to be banned or nerfed rather to stop. Let me rephrase. It has to be semi-limited to nerf Kashtira. No, that's not why. I have Unicorn here to nerf Kashtira, and then I have this to be able to nerf everyone just playing it all the time with 3 copies in any deck they want. I don't like that. Next up is Nightmare Corruptor Ibli. We just got, so perspective. It is currently, I'm recording this at early morning on the 4th of May. Happy Star Wars Day. This card here just got announced a reprint in, I think, the new Battles of Legends set. And because of that, I do not think it's going to get banned. If this was recorded 1 day ago, I would have this over here, but not anymore. So I'm going to put it over here into the unlimited section because for now, it'll be unlimited. Maybe in the next format. We'll see after they sell this next set. Next up is going to be the Lyros Recital Starling. This card can go to 3. It is doing absolutely nothing now, so it can go to 3 for sure. Maxi, ooh, Maxi, yeah, you can stay banned, please, forever, never come back. I've played a bit of Master Duel, and my god, I hate it. Could you imagine in the TCG if we're running the 3 copies of Maxi, the 3 copies of Ash, the 3 copies of Crossout, and the Called By as well? That's 10 cards right there, just right off the bat. What other non-engine are you playing? Not many decks have that much space for non-engine. It's ridiculous. I hate the fact that Maxi is in Master Duel. It is crazy. In the OCG, if they want to keep it, sure, it's a different format. I get it, no problem. But it is so difficult to play around in a format like today's is, and it's going to make games so grindy that I feel like it just doesn't make much sense to bring it back ever. Next up is going to be Miscellaneousaurus, currently at 1. I love dinos. It is my favorite deck of all time. It's my pet deck. And I'll be honest, I think this card should come back to 2 copies. I don't want to say 3 copies, but considering that Konami is going to be releasing the, I think it's Wild Survivors is the new dinosaur like deck building set with like the Meteorosis cards, and those cards are crazy for dinos. I think this card could come back to 3 just to kind of like give them an extra bump in sales. And for that reason, I'm actually going to put it to 3 copies, which, yeah, 3 copies for Misk. Is it broken? It's a broken, busted card, yes, but dinos need the help. And for that reason, Misk to 3. By the way, did you know that only 3% of people who watch my videos are subbed to the channel? So if you're enjoying the videos so far, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. Next up, Nat Beast. Naturia Beast is a fantastic card. A lot of people want to see it banned because it's decently easy to make in certain decks, but I feel like it's really hard to make in most strategies unless you're playing specifically Earth, and you have to have a good tuner lineup as well, which not every deck has, especially Earth decks. Decks that are like higher stars, like Kashtira, for example, you cannot make this card. So it's very difficult to do that. Either way, I think this card is a problem for certain formats. Right now, is it the biggest problem? Not at all. I think these 4 cards here are bigger problems. Well, these 3 cards here rather are bigger problems. So for that reason, I'm actually going to keep Nat Beast at the 3 copies as well. Harp Horror, currently banned, bring it to 1. It's not going to do too much. Orcus is a good deck. It's not the most insane deck in the world anymore. And for that reason, I think 1 is perfectly viable. Pot of Desires, currently at 2. And honestly, I didn't think I was going to like it here, but I actually do a lot. I hated drawing Desires into Desires because if you didn't know, it's once per turn. On top of that, it's hard to resolve 3 Desires because you're basically banishing 30 cards from your 40 card deck. So you don't want to draw like dead cards. You'd rather honestly banish one of your cards as being your Desires. But hey, it is what it is. It's consistency. It's a +1. It works out. I get it. For that reason, I think consistency reasons specifically, going to 2 copies makes a lot of sense. That being said, Pot of Prosperity, 2 copies as well. Yeah, the fact that this card is you're sending 3 cards or 6 cards from your extra deck to the banish zone and then excavating 3 or 6 as well is really nice. It's just consistency reasons. I don't like that decks that don't need to play Prosperity are playing it at 3 copies just for consistency boosting. Kashtira doesn't need the extra consistency. It's a scary good deck. Putting it to 2 copies is not going to affect that at all. It's going to be marginally different. I think this card is so strong and people should be playing it at 2 copies in my opinion because it should go to 2 in my mind. Wow, that was a really roundabout way of saying this card should go to 2. Regardless, moving on, we have some Runic cards, starting off with Runic Tip and Runic Fountain. So, Runic Fountain, I think, is the problem card for the deck. I want to put this card at 1. It is your entire recursion. The fact that you can get back all of your Runic spells is insane. The fact that you're able to just get the draw power is crazy. The fact that you can activate from your hand is crazy. Yeah, 1 for sure is where I would put it. Runic Tip, however, the fact that this gets you to everything else, and I just finished saying it, consistency is an issue for me. I want to reduce consistency of these top decks, so that's why I would put it at 2 copies. It is your searcher for the archetype, gets you to any Runic spell you need to. For that reason, 2 copies, reduce the consistency is my preference. Next up, Salamangreat Gazelle. Put it 3 copies. It's time. Salamangreat Salad was a good deck for a long time. It is not a good deck anymore. So we're going to keep it at 3 copies and we'll keep it there forever, I hope. Next up is going to be Skill Drain. I think Skill Drain will probably go back to 1. I don't think it ever gets banned outright. I would like it to get banned because fuck this card, but I think Konami will put it to 1 after putting it to 3 eventually. It's just this card is so oppressive at times and is really problematic. And I think because of that reason, Skill Drain makes sense at 1 copy. Speedroid Terratop, currently at 1. I would put it to 3 actually. And the reason for that is because this card isn't really going to do much in the meta unless like a very big 3-axis deck comes around, and even if that's the case, there are going to be better combo decks around pretty much forever. So I feel like it makes more sense to keep it at 3 copies. Yes, it's a free link too because you can special this card with no monsters on the field, search for Takatemborg, special the Takatemborg, and you have whether it's a rank 3 or a link 2 or whatever it might be. It is annoying, I get it. But is that really the best thing you could be doing with your 1-card combo going into a free link 2? If it's Cherubini, sure, then Cherubini might be the problem, not this, because you can still get to this card pretty easily with other cards. Regardless, I think that Terratop definitely can come back to 3 copies. It's just not its prime anymore. Next up, we have the Sprite cards. Sprite Blue, Sprite Starter. Okay, so here's my thought on this. I can look at this 2 ways. I can look at this and say, Sprite Starter should be at 1 because it is a quick play spell that can be activated on your opponent's turn. I can also look at it and say, Sprite Blue should be at 1 because it is a monster that can be used for the summon of other monsters. And that's kind of a hard call to make. Where do I lean though? I would personally say that Blue should be at 2 and Starter should be at 1. Starter getting you any card in the deck is obviously a problem. It's not great for time purposes, obviously, because you lose life points equal to the attack. But I don't like it because if you go Starter in your phase, in your turn rather, and you go Starter in your opponent's end phase or something, then that's 2 activations that get you so much advantage. I just feel like it's absolutely crazy the amount of advantage you can get from 1 activation of Starter. So for that reason, I would actually keep it at 1 and I would put Blue at 2. I know the body is scary. The body is a problem to get into like link plays or get into Gigantic Sprite or whatever the case might be. But I feel like it's just more tame than Starter is, and that's just my opinion. Next up is going to be the Substitute. It's doing nothing right now, put it to 3. The Thunder Dragon Colossus. I think this card should stay banned. A lot of people want it to come back because they have fond memories of TOS format. I was barely around during that time, and I hated this card. I still feel like basically a permanent Jewel and Lockbird essentially is disgusting. The fact that you cannot add cards from deck to hand is crazy. It is one of the main advantages, or one of the main reasons why people play Yu-Gi-Oh! The amount of searching you do, the amount of interaction you have with your resource, with your deck. I don't want that you take that away completely with this type of card. And the fact that it is like very difficult to beat down. It's big, it's like destruction protection as well. That's a problem. Next up though is going to be Tidal. I think Tidal should stay banned. Tidal is a great card, don't get me wrong. But the fact that you have a way to foolish cards to the graveyard is not really what you want to do, not really what you want to condone rather, because they get free send to grave. And there's a reason why Lavalval Chain is banned and probably won't ever come back, because it does that. So I think that having this card come off right now, it's not the right decision. Eventually, sure, absolutely. I think it's definitely not as strong a proponent as these 5 here to stay on the list, but definitely at some point Tidal can come off, just not right now. And now finally for Zoodiac Trident. Are you gonna go to 1? Are you gonna go to 0? It's currently at 0. Personally, I think the reason why Trident was so good was because Zeus was just so playable and you can make huge Zeuses. I think with Zeus going to 1, I'm much more likely to say Trident you can go to 1 as well. I think in general, it's a very strong card. It's a great card to have, but it's very limited to its own deck, and in that deck right now, is Destruction again the best form of removal? No, we saw it with Blaster, the first card we covered, and now the last card we're covering as well. Or the Blaster was the second card, regardless. Now, it's a good card. It has recursion. I know you can recur it back. I just feel like it's, with Zeus going to 1 in my mind in this list, I feel like putting it to 1 as well kind of does the job too. It's just, it raises the bar for Zoodiac specifically, and that's really it. Regardless, that's going to be my list. If you guys enjoyed the video, of course, then make sure to leave a like on the video. Are you excited for the list? Make sure to leave a like for that. And of course, do you agree with it? Let me know down in the comments if you have anything that you would make a change to, because I know you guys are going to give me your opinions. I would love to hear them. I respond to every single comment that you guys give me. Of course, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Like I said before, there's only 3% of you guys who watch my videos that are subscribed to the channel. So if you have not done so already, you made it this far, sub to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.